Hello there, my dear loving souls. Welcome back to part 3 on the subject matter of yawning. I hope you're still here with us and you've enjoyed some of the discussions that we had in part 1 and part 2 on the subject, in terms of me talking a little bit more about the universal laws as well as some practical tips for you to perhaps undergo a bit of an interesting experiment to just observe, the moments and circumstances on the context as to when is it that you yawn and why, and what happens when another person in your life yawns and you notice them. Do you yawn back, or vice versa? Did you yawn? Did you kick off the domino effect, and all of a sudden you see other people within your surroundings yawning? If any of that resonates with you, I would really love you to comment down below and also share some of your own thoughts as to what yawning could truly mean, as in addition to simply being tired or sleepy or whatever it might be. And actually, speaking on which, I'll talk about that in a moment as I'm shuffling some crystals deck and a few other oracle decks here on my card, because it's this part 3. This is all about us getting some messages from the spirit world on the topic. But as I'm shuffling, I am drawn to talk about the sleeping, the tiredness part of why people think that that's what yawning means. Now, I see it more as it is a physical sign also of like your physical body wanting to rest. So I do think by design, apart from the bits and bobs we talked about in part 1 and part 2, but by design there has to be something about why we yawn perhaps first thing in the morning when we are awake, and why is it towards the evening when we're trying to fall asleep. Now, I don't think it's to do with tiredness per se, but it's more like a signal from your spiritual body to your physical body that it's time for the physical body to recharge itself in order for the spiritual body to kind of do its thing that it does when the physical body is resting and sleeping, at night or when you're sleeping. And the equivalent thing I can, for some reason I get this image of, the analogy is with, for instance, your phone or your technology like a laptop. Both need to have energy, right? And they need battery. So you might plug it in to the wall, to the socket, in order for it to recharge, say, overnight, to get the battery boost up in the morning, right? You might want to, charge it up overnight. So the physical phone is just being there, or your laptop is just lying there, hooked up to the socket in order for the energy to come through and for the battery to recharge. That's our physical body effectively sleeping. And sometimes I've noticed with my Mac in particular, or other devices, when they turn on, there's this signal or a little sound, a little beep that comes through. Do you know what I mean? And likewise, when you're turning something off, you may have a shutdown tune or a shutdown song, or sleep tone or something of that sort. So that's the best analogy I can sort of give as to what yawning might be in those circumstances where it's a first thing in the morning or last thing at night, why we might yawn. It's something to do with our physical body effectively being the vehicle, a piece of technology that we use when we live through the planet Earth. It's now it's starting up if it's first thing in the morning, or now it's going to sleep, shutting down in order to recharge. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if that didn't. Honestly, I don't mind. Let me know your comments if any of that resonated with you, or perhaps you might have a different analogy. So here we go. Anything else from the crystals? We've got a couple that have popped through already, and that's selenite and jet. Yeah, I'm feeling like that's it with the crystals. I can just sort of feel it normal with these crystals. Let's get the intuition and the energy and spirit decks going. So as I'm shuffling intuition card, let me just mention to you, selenite is all about psychic insight, blessings, fidelity, and deep connection. And in particular, the psychic insight and deep connection, I think, is actually a confirmation that something with this yawning, right? So I was talking about that we're one web of connections, And interestingly, you know, the actual image of the selenite here, it's like this beautiful star, right? So beautiful, gorgeous star. And for me, it does remind us with all these pointers, it does feel like, you know, there's a central point, which is you, but you've got all these bits coming from you, which might signify, you know, your connections to others, and obviously other individuals, other dear loving souls out there would be similar. They're like another star with its own pointers and connections all around. So that's what I'm getting from that card. And let's just talk about the card Jet for a moment. Jet is all about absorbing negativity, or lovely, grounding, financial balance, and healing grief. Oh wow, it's quite a deep, dense energy that I'm feeling from this. In particular, when it talks about, you know, absorbing negativity and healing grief, I'm, you know, instantly reminded about like death and completion. Perhaps, you know, like the end of a cycle and then a new beginning or something like that. So I wonder what this meaning is in relation to yawning. Absorbing negativity. Oh, I wonder if there's some kind of exchange that happens, or a release of energy. Healing grief, a release of energy. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get. I'm getting there when you're releasing something into the world, right? When you're yawning, it actually feels physically like you're releasing something into the universe. So I wonder if that's what it means, is that sometimes it's like our spiritual body's way, in conjunction with our physical body, to actually get release some of the negativity, some tension, some stress, some anxiety, whatever the cause of those sort of emotions and feelings might be. Maybe it's actually helping it release, like instead of it being blocked somewhere within your physical, spiritual body, it's time for it to unblock and just move away, release into the universe. Because remember, energy can transform. It can't create it, you can't destroy it, but it does transform. So I do wonder if that's one way of cleansing or releasing the energy. Maybe that's another wonderful ability or function of yawning, releasing negativity and low frequency energies. Interesting. I don't think about this. This is just purely come through from the cards. I'll shuffle some energy and spirit oracles as well, just to see what messages we might get from those cards. But in between both, like, it's quite interesting that selenite and jet, both cards, you know, selenite, as I mentioned, as I've shown before, it's quite a black grayish color, and jet is darker. Well, it's black, and the card itself has some deep purples. And for me, thinking about those cards, it's very like black, you know, the color black comes through quite strongly. And for me, the color black it's not actually color, by the way, that's what I'm trying to say, but it reminds me a lot of the void, or the place that you may have heard others speak, you know, spiritual individuals out there, as the place from which the universe was created, as in if the universe and all us are light, and we are light and love, and light can break up into multiple frequencies of colors. That's why we see the rainbow, right? Well, black is not part of that light. Black is actually an empty space. It's not actually a color. It's the opposite of any color or light. It's the opposite of it, actually. It's empty space. It's the void. And a lot of spiritual beings and individuals out there talk about having been in the void, which is this nice black velvety space that you can go and sort of rest and reside and flow in it, and actually feel the power of creativity. And that's where people say the power that's from that place. The universe sort of got created by us, by the way, because we're all co-creators of the universe. And so the reason I think I was drawn to think about that space, or that black void, it's actually from a place of positivity, and that's where the strongest creative powers are born. That's where we come from. Perhaps that's where our original home was before we all decided to co-create, you know, a wonderful universe and have some more experiences for a variety of, good reasons. And so touching it back with the, sort of bringing it back with the universal laws on, as well as, the actual topic of yawning. For me, it's like a deeply spiritual beginning or spiritual connection. And it's just confirmation of that, just as the void, or the black void, the space of creation, is such a magnificent concept. And I'm sure it actually exists, even though I don't have conscious memory of it. Our subconscious knows absolutely everything. I do wonder whether that's why our spirit, our spiritual body, actually knows what that place is. It knows, obviously, connections that we all have with one another. It knows the power of energy. It knows the need for it to express itself, that communication part of it, and the power of just creation. Something about the power of creation. I think that's why I started thinking down the line of the black void and creation. Maybe it's something to do with to pay attention to when we yawn, because creativity might be occurring during that point. It might be something you're thinking about speaking, or you're listening to, or something that when you yawn, it's like a spark of creation, or confirmation of the spark of creation, or something important in relation to creativity and creation in your life that you might want to just delve more into or look into further. Interesting. Alrighty, team. So a couple of cards, oracle cards, kept come through, and we've got a potent time, and see how that is also interesting imagery on the card. You've got literally, the universe in front of you, and the color scheme is quite dark and grey and black, and it's like we're watching it, we're all co-creators of that, and it's all about a potent time. I'll read the message from the guidebook, but it's quite interesting that it came through right when I'm talking here about this black void and something about creation, or inherently something to do with our design, perhaps, in the physical body, to retain the power of yawning within us, to help us. Obviously, it's there by design. It's a magnificent ability. So potent time. The other card that has come through is wounded, and it reminds me of, when you're just in the depth of hurt, perhaps, or pain, and you do not know how to move forward, and you're sort of surrendering, to the winds of change, or to whatever is happening, to the flow, because you're no longer able to physically or mentally or emotionally or spiritually, perhaps, to keep going, or you don't know what to do next. So this is what the card usually means. And then we also got the number 8, which is teacher, has come through. Got a couple of lovely people on the image with a book, and at the bottom the words are about learning and a new path. Wow, okay, so let's have a look at the intuition card, just guidebook, sorry, in order for us to just get the messages from the guidebook to see how it could directly relate to the subject of yawning that we've been talking about today. Alright, so if we start with a potent time to manifest, here we go. Quite linked up with our creation, right? The black void. Okay, here we go. Your limitless energy with abundant potential. Once you start accessing your true power, you will start seeing what you're capable of. You're constantly creating using your energy, thoughts, emotions, and actions. You're doing this all the time, even if you're not aware of it. Most people are unaware. This is a time to be conscious of what you're manifesting. What are you focusing your energy on? It's all about your intentions. Try being intentional as you move through each day. Forget about where you are now. Do not let the present limit you. Start dreaming of the future. Start living for the future, and let go of the past. The signs are intention, manifesting, creation, creativity, and protection. And I think it definitely aligns with the message I was picking up on using the colors of the crystal cards that came through, that black void, creation, co-creation. Some of you may have just needed to hear the message itself, as it may resonate with you in your lifetime, or wherever you might be. Nothing to do with yawning perhaps, but you may have just simply needed to hear the message. But if I had to think about what it means to yawning, I actually think this is an interesting message about the fact that it is time to become aware and conscious of what you are doing. In other words, it said most people are unaware. And I totally agree. Most people don't really notice yawning or other people yawning or the meaning behind that or why it happens or whatnot. So I do wonder, the reason I was drawn to talk about the subject matter is to kind of raise awareness and become people consciously aware, or at least a little bit more observant. Observant. Perhaps the time has to come for us to observe why we yawn, when we yawn. Perhaps a bit more scientific research needs to take place into the subject of yawning. And in my view, it's something I've observed. I think there is a spiritual connection to us yawning, and it's quite a significant one. And yeah, perhaps it's time to just become a little bit more intentional about that capability of our bodies, and just to understand what's going on. Why is it there? What's the signal? What's the message? A potent time to do so. Alrighty, so then we've got the card of Wounded, and the message from the guidebook on the Wounded card is all about giving yourself time to heal and being gentle and being kind. Emotionally, physically, or spiritually, you are in need of healing. It's time to seek wellness. Allow your pain space and give yourself time to heal. Acknowledging that you're in pain, that you have been carrying wounds for a long time, is the first step. You have held these wounds for so long, but they are no longer needed. It's time to set them free. To stop hurting yourself and allowing others to hurt you. It's time to protect and balance yourself. Healing takes time. Move gently forward. Be open to accepting help from others. Be open to being loved by others. Seek out those who can help you on your healing journey. When you are tuned into your inner wisdom, these people may just appear, and the signs are healing, help, boundaries, balance, protection, and go slow. And some of you may have needed to hear that message irrespective of the subject matter, but I think it does directly relate to this Jet card, which was all about absorbing negativity, grounding, financial balance, and healing grief. So that energy of healing is definitely quite prominent from this, from these few cards. And so I do wonder if it's just another confirmation of what I mentioned before, that perhaps there is something to do with this process of yawning. It does actually feel like a release of something, and perhaps as a result of releasing a certain energy that no longer serves you as good, there is healing that occurs during that process. And it's obviously a significant part of our journey here on planet Earth in order to be able to release things and heal from a variety of circumstances that happen in our life, and the result of it, we just need to heal. Alright, yeah, and the last card that popped through is from the Energy and Spirit Oracle deck, and it's the number 8. So let's have a look what the message is all about. So it's all about learning in a new path. This card reveals a new or expanded path of learning for you. If you've been exploring different topics of study, now is the time to pursue your interests more actively, and a teacher among the living is drawing near. This may be an online or in-person instructor, or a group leader, or an author. It could also be someone you know who's willing to share their expertise with you. Open up to the guidance of this person. They're already in your orbit or arriving soon. If this card is near the Talent Guides card in your spread, know that great skills and knowledge will be coming from all directions in time and space. On a personal level, your soul may be calling you to teach in some capacity. The wide world is waiting to be explored, and your soul is ready to learn and share. And the affirmation is, I'm open to a new path of learning and to the resonant teachers who are willing to share. What's interesting is that this card is obviously not next to a Talent Guides card, but it is next to this Wounded card, if you recall, when I just read the message, that part of the healing is to actually connect with other people that are no doubt coming with their own blessings and their ability to help out that person who is wounded, to lift them up, to lift their spirits up from the situation of being wounded, give them some healing through the process, and in order to improve their state of being. And so interestingly, that we've got another confirmation here of certain people coming into one's life as teachers, as mentors, to share their skills and their gifts and their talents in order to actually open up a new path of learning, a new experience. And the other thought that I was kind of having as I was reading this message is that, just like I mentioned before, perhaps it's time for the scientific community to look more into the whole subject of yawning and why is it done. Perhaps more research needs to occur. And if you are inspired by that, you might be a scientist yourself, or you might be thinking of a scientific project yourself, or you've got kids or children who are doing science classes and they're thinking of some interesting things to look into or research or to write about. Perhaps yawning might be that subject matter, because I do think we just don't know as much about it, yet it's such a bodily function of ours that I'm pretty sure we all yawn on like a daily basis. So why shouldn't we know more about it, right? And so I do truly hope that this video series has been inspirational, and to even like start thinking slightly different about why we yawn. Perhaps there's more to it than we know. Please do share your thoughts down below. The other thing that just popped through is just the number 8, which for me is the eternal number. That we are eternal beings, we're spiritual beings, having a human experience. Ultimately we're energy, we can't be created or destroyed, we're forever existing. And this is just a confirmation for me as to the second universal law, which I discussed in part 1, that we are spirits. And I do truly believe that this is something about our spirit trying to do for us. A big part message was all about communication and communicating with us, giving us those insights or deep insights, psychic insights or intuitive insights, but also a reminder of our connection to others, like that domino effect. Perhaps that's why other people yawn all of a sudden when you're in a small community and somebody yawns, all of a sudden it feels like other people are starting to yawn. But also there's the strong message about healing negative frequencies, healing grief, healing wounds, healing, like kind of a healing process, and other people, like other group of people coming in to assist a person through a wounded situation, to assist people through a difficult point in time in their lifetime, to assist, to come together, to help one another. And perhaps this is why I have noticed in my life anyway, I observed that I would yawn typically when I'm in a state of prayer, when I'm in church, like a spiritual place of worship, and typically a lot of people, a group of people do come around those places, right? And you're there together, feeling like you belong perhaps at that point in time in that space. It's a very spiritual place, and that is where people perhaps heal on a spiritual level by being in those places together as a community. Maybe that's why I've noticed it in these kinds of places of worship, about me. Anyway, so on that note, I'm going to wrap up the video series, my dear loving souls. Comment down below if you found value as a result of this video series. Share your thoughts and comments about the video series or on the topic of yawning, if you've got like a different way of thinking about it, or there might be some additional research being undertaken somewhere in the world about it that you might want to let everybody know of. That would be fantastic. I have made a commitment to donate 22% of my income as the Loving Soul aka Viktoriya to charities and noble causes. So if you would consider liking the video or sharing it with others, perhaps even subscribing to the channel, that would be extremely greatly appreciated. So on that note, I hope you are going to have a wonderful week ahead, and I will see you in my other videos shortly. Bye for now.